But it is the psychology of like ownership, like assumed ownership of land or animals in a situation where there is none, is amazing because people do it all the time. This is my hole. This is my fish.
I'm entitled to it.
This is, yeah.
The people are just, you can tell right off the bat, all right, this is not somebody I would spend time with.
You're right.
So they're going to test your patience.
Yeah.
Sure. And then all of a sudden, this dude yells up at me. He's like, "Hey, you bleepity bleep! You trying to low hole me?"
We hear something behind us, and is it an elk? Is it a bear? And all of a sudden, this gentleman just comes like blazing down the hill, and he asks what we're doing there, and it's public land. And well, we said, "Sir, we're hunting." And he's like, "Oh, you can't hunt here." Welcome, Cravenators, to this beautiful sunny morning here in Western Oregon. A rare sunshine in Willamette Valley in March. We are joined today with Neutrogena hand model Nathan Bailey. Nate, thanks for joining us today.
Supple, soft hands.
Thank you.
Dave Bailey.
Yeah. Coming off a fresh contract renewal. Pretty excited for 2018.
Awesome.
I got
With
some
all
more
this talk
fishing
about
money.
diversity, your days are probably numbered.
Nate, I got to ask you, what's it like coming up in a predominantly female model community?
Well, my hands are about the same size, so you get enough work done, and you can't tell the difference. So,
Any resentment from female actresses and models that you've had to deal with?
no, everybody's cool.
Okay.
It's a fun industry.
Yeah, so talkative. Surprising with the Cheetos under your fingernails
That's right.
and grease.
Thanks for being here, Nate. Also joining us is Jake Siegel, Guinness Book World Records holder. Not a lot of people knew that about Jake.
Which one? Which holder?
Most malpractice suits.
Yep.
Won and lost.
And proud of it.
And one look at Jake and that would solve the mystery there. I mean,
Have you guys
tell us about one, Jake. Tell us about the nose.
Probably my
no. Tell us about the pec implant.
the pec
Malpractice.
implant, singular.
Yeah.
Here's the deal. They were running a special. I got the wording a little mixed up as far as buy one get one free. I just wanted the free one. There lies some of the problems, but most of my pictures are going to be from the left. So
Yeah.
kind of an A cup, A minus situation. But my new calf implants are pretty sweet.
Awesome.
Yeah. So
Awesome.
looking forward to shorts weather.
Sun's out, guns out. Well, thanks for being here, Jake.
Glad to be here. It's been a little while since we've threw the headsets on, but I'm stoked. I'm ready to get back at it. Everybody's kind of been battling some sickness, and you can probably hear it in our voices. We're all a little pinched and nasally. But thanks for bringing us in, John.
Absolutely.
Also, for some of you that didn't know, John's a bit new to social media, but he's really found his stride, and viral videos is really where it's at. And to the man with the most likes on Instagram for the reenactment of the Buffalo Bill dance scene from Silence of the Lambs, John Eastman. Shocking.
Glad to be here. Glad to be here.
And if anybody's listening and has not seen Silence of the Lambs, just do Buffalo Bill dance scene. Just take a look on the YouTubes.
You'll probably see my video.
Most likely John's going
To
be
the top.
probably the third down.
So. It takes a lot more agility than one would think to pull that dance off, and dexterity.
Most think the tuck is the problem.
Yeah,
But that's not.
it's not.
It's the bending.
It's the spin. It's the spin with the tuck.
Yeah.
It creates tension and strain on certain parts of the body that one would not think, but. Lots of pregame stretching before that one, but glad to be here.
The title of your video, Peekaboo John, was a nice choice.
Here I am, peekaboo. Yeah.
We're back.
Yeah. So, well,
All
glad
right.
to be here.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So on the agenda today, would you rather? Always titillating. And then we are going to dive into something we've all dealt with at some capacity, right?
Yeah,
Let's call it what it is: assholes in the woods, or in the field, I should say, on the water.
Bullies.
Bullies.
Yeah.
Bullies. People running you off your tree stand, running you out of your area.
Yep.
Combat fishing,
Mm-hmm.
claiming that you're fishing their hole. So we're going to share some experiences with what we've done with said bullies, how
Yeah.
we've handled them. Usually a lot of jiu-jitsu involved and verbal blows as well.
Yeah, lots of, we all like to handle it differently. Personally, as we'll see, I like to kill with kindness.
Yes,
There's nothing more easy. I mean, there's not an easier way to diffuse a situation than hugging a stranger
Yeah.
with your shirt off.
Yeah. I usually go in with the open mouth kiss and just see what happens. Just open it up.
Yeah.
Confusion. Which,
Yeah.
by the way, I was
Yeah.
watching Impractical Jokers last. It was a rerun, but there was one where, and if you haven't seen Impractical Jokers, check it out, TBS.
Hilarious.
Very good stuff. But yeah, there was a challenge where they were trying to get Murr to get a stranger to kiss him, and he was successful with the girl in Central Park or wherever they were. She did. She gave him a little peck on the lips. But the shirtless guy that was working out and just taking a break and stretching, he had other words. So anyway, side note, funny show.
I see why you like that show.
Yeah.
Topless dudes.
Topless dudes.
Well, I got to get ideas for my implants or
Yeah.
body improvement. All right. So, would you rather? Today, we the guys are. I couldn't make it, but fishing and did some steelhead fishing in the last few weeks, and spring fishing is upon us. So, Nate, if you would take us through the would you rather?
So the choice is, for the rest of your life, would you rather only be able to fish freshwater species only, or saltwater species only?
And clarify.
And with saltwater, that includes fish that do run into freshwater. So your salmon, steelhead,
Right.
those all count as saltwater species. So even if you're fishing
shark.
in a freshwater river,
Right.
yeah,
So
Sharks.
even
yeah,
No.
bull sharks too.
Yeah.
bull sharks.
So
even
alligators.
though salmon, steelhead begin their life in freshwater, they spend most of their life in saltwater, and so that's why we're lumping them into saltwater. I'm
Correct.
just trying to understand this because I'll lose sleep over this. Okay, got it. Saltwater versus freshwater. Okay, I have my answer.
Ready?
Are we ready?
Yep.
It's without a doubt, resoundingly,
Yeah.
unequivocally, that's a tough one. What's it say? Resoundingly. Saltwater. Saltwater. Yeah.
Salty. You
Saltskis.
salty son of a bitch.
Yeah, and really, I mean, don't get me wrong. I love our freshwater brethren. I love your smallies, your big eyes, your walleyes, your junior high boys of the freshwater world. Yeah, the saltwater. I mean, you got your salmon and your steelhead.
If
I'd
Sam and
be
steelhead
lost.
were in the
I'd be
other
lost.
bracket, would you sway your
pendulum swings.
Does it?
Yeah.
It does. And I'll be honest. I don't do a whole lot of like deep sea type
Right.
saltwater or speaking, especially in public. But man. But the salmon and steelhead. So question for you. Can you fish for salmon and steelhead once they're in freshwater?
No.
Or can you only
No.
pursue those in the ocean?
No. You cannot. You would not be able to target those fish. And when I say target, you can't fish for them at all. Not
At
like, well, I'm
all.
not targeting.
Maybe,
not
maybe
baiting,
you
I'm
might
just feeding
accidentally
the,
be able to
squirrels.
catch one if you're targeting trout.
Oh
in a river,
man, I'm jumping.
and you lucked out. And
Yeah, I'm jumping the bandwagon. Then I'm going back to freshwater, just because I love to trout fish a lot.
it's America's fish.
Yeah, it's America's
It is
fish.
America's fish.
It's America's fish.
We'll see. By the way,
Stay tuned. By the way, March Madness is coming up.
Coming up.
Outdoor Madness. Yep.
Yep. So I'm jumping ship. and I'm going back to freshwater.
Just with the trout?
Just for the
Damn.
just for the trout fishing. Not just for the trout, but and I don't have a big boat to fish in saltwater. I have a lot of friends, but for some reason I've never gotten an invite. So yeah, I'm a freshwater guy.
Okay, freshwater it is. Wow. Okay.
You talked yourself right into a circle there.
Yeah, you did.
I did.
That's
And comment down below here on the if you're on the YouTube channel, if I'm crazy or not. I don't know.
I think we'll post this in the in our social feed too here in the next week, following the publishing of this. We'll put it out there. Would you rather?
You put it next to the Buffalo Bill dance,
Yeah.
and
It'll be there.
It will get noticed.
You get views. You
Yep.
eyeballs for sure. Maybe a little pop up.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
Well,
Pop out.
it might not be up for
a lot
long.
of people
though.
say I didn't have the balls to do that video, and then they saw the video.
They're like, oh no, that works.
Oh, he doesn't have the balls.
That's a snug fit. All right. Well, thanks for that lengthy answer.
Sorry.
I'm gonna go. You guys, it's not surprising. I will stick with freshwater. Totally. Born and raised on it. I miss it. Enough said. Plus, I can ice fish. So,
True.
if I can stand on the water and drink a cocktail and fish, come on,
Yeah.
game over.
It's a little easier to fish year round for freshwater fish than saltwater,
Yeah.
unless you've got a, giant commercial boat. But
Yeah.
I'm in the same boat. I like bass fishing too much.
Yeah.
I got to stick with freshwater.
Salt water. Why even bother people?
I don't know. I mean, if we had more access to, like you talk to somebody down in the Keys, they do a lot of like that tropical bone fishing, which I've never done before. Redfish, sea trout. They call them trout down there, but it's a sea trout.
Yeah.
Peacock bass.
Well, peacock bass,
I think they live in brackish water.
brackish and
Forest
fresh.
brackish.
Can live in
Gotcha.
brackish.
Yeah, can live in brackish and fresh.
Okay.
Yeah, but I guess we're just kind of a product of where we were raised. But
Yeah.
I'm still going. I'm definitely going with the saltwater. I got you again. No, freshwater. So
Don't worry, nobody's listening after you.
they've tuned out. This sucks.
All right, that was good. I thought John would have went saltwater, but he
You can't pursue
Yeah.
them though in freshwater, which is where I
Nope.
care to target.
Nope.
So
it's a saltwater. It was saltwater fish versus freshwater fish, not fisheries. So
which could be another one down the road.
yeah. All right,
So-
let's get to the meat and taters.
Yes, please.
Yeah, so I was thinking about my, childhood and just how much of a jerk I was sometimes. No, I'm kidding. I didn't like bullies. I didn't like bullies at all. Granted, I came from a pretty small school, but and I was guilty at times for. I know this will be hard to believe, but maybe
Say
more
glass houses here, John.
more of an emotional abuse type deal. But I was never, but that was a short period of time, and I'm pretty sure I've called everybody to apologize. But if I haven't, comment below. But
Step 12.
it
I want
kind
that
of,
apology.
I was thinking about that. You mentioned a friend of mine was steelhead fishing yesterday, and he sent me a picture of. He had got up early. He wanted to get his daughter into a steelhead. She hadn't caught one yet. She's 13, and he guy knows what he's doing. So he gets up early, gets to the river early, and gets to the hole. The hole that he thinks he has the best opportunity of getting his daughter into a fish. And I get a text from him, yesterday mid morning, and the text is from his boat, and the picture is he's shooting downstream, and you see the bank, you see the main hole on the left that they're fishing, and there's 4 drift boats anchored below him,
Yeah.
and it's not a very big area, and they're stacked in there, and he the hashtag low holing, and there's an expression of low holing which is
Yeah. Explain
ethically incorrect and immorally wrong. So low holing is, and we joke about it from time to time, but the reality is generally you start at the top of a hole and work your way through a specific hole, with the idea being that you hit all the fish in that hole. And
Top
went
meaning upriver.
the most farthest point upstream.
Right.
And to be another angler and step in below an opposing boat or angler on the bank who is working their way downstream is ethically, generally in most areas,
Questionable.
looked down upon. Looked down upon. And so anyhow, that just got me thinking, and there's not to say that that wouldn't be considered asshole-ish or bullying, but there has been, I'm sure you guys have had those circumstances where you run into that person either on the river or in the woods, and they're rude, or
There's etiquette,
Yeah.
right? Or unwritten rules to hunting and fishing, infringements on other sportsmen, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so did your buddy? Was there any words? I mean, did you talk to him?
I haven't talked to him yet. As far knowing him, he's got a pretty short fuse, so he probably wouldn't use that one call he gets from the local department to me. But now I'm sure he handled it well, handled his cool. Plus, his daughter was there, so so it's yet to be seen on how that circumstance was dealt with. But yeah, so I'll just share one. We can go around the table and share our own experience, and we all have a lot of them. But and if you guys have had something similar happen to you or have an interesting story to share with us, please let us know. Comment or write in, and we'd love to hear them and see them. So, but I'll just start with growing up hunting the coast of Oregon. There's a lot of roads, main roads that you can drive, but there's side roads that are gated. And these roads, they'll generally go down into a small drainage. It's not a big area, and that'll typically feed a roadless area or a semi-roadless area. But it's kind of etiquette that if there's a vehicle parked at a gate, and it's there's keep in mind there's lots of places to hunt. There's lots of gates, lots of gated roads that you can walk down. That you typically you let that one go. You should go on to the next one. And this particular day,
the idea is they're western hunting. People are spot and stalk.
We're
not behind them.
Yeah, we're elk hunting in this scenario, and we are we're not tree stand hunting. And you're kind of you're looking for a bugle. You're going down into an area and trying to strike a bull or cut some tracks. And on this particular day, we got up early, got to the gate, got out of the rig, and worked our way down this big ridge into this nasty brush hole, which we know that holds elk, and we're doing our hunt that day, and we were probably an hour into the hunt, and we hear something behind us, and is it an elk? Is it a bear? And all of a sudden, this gentleman just comes like blazing down the hill. And he asks what we're doing there, and it's public land. And we said, "Sir, we're hunting." And he's like, "Oh, you can't hunt here. You can't hunt here." What? Oh, really? And at this point, I was I don't know, I was probably 18. Yeah, 18 or 19, and a little less wise at that time, and my hackles got raised pretty quick, and there was an altercation, not physical, but voices were raised, and it came very close to being physical. And long story short, this person ended up, in a frenzy of basically cuss words, going past me on this elk trail, basically bleep it a bleep you, this is my bleeping spot, whatever, and boom, they were gone. And I was just sitting there like, I can't believe that just freaking happened. Like, I was getting ready to, I got so mad in the heat of the moment that I was like, I'm gonna fight this guy. And luckily he just went past me and boom, gone. And a part of me was like, oh, screw this guy. I'm gonna run past him, to do this leapfrog thing.
Yeah.
And I was just kind of sitting there and then reflecting and thought, man, this isn't worth it. There's lots of places to hunt. It's just not worth it. But it definitely put a damper on my day. And I walked back up to the rig, and it's probably a 30-40 minute hike back up there. And this guy's rig's parked right there. So I know that he even saw the rig parked there, and he's despite that decided to blow down in there. And that's just one.
And then it was all accusatory of you guys for crashing the spot.
Yeah, and it was obviously he had hunted down there before. There was a specific elk that we were after.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we would have taken our shot at it, anything, but there was a very large, bull in this drainage that at certain times of year made himself visible, and so that's I think that's why that person was down in there. Yeah, and it also made me think, man, if it's that kind of attitude and those kind of actions that really would put a sour taste in someone's mouth about hunters, about in general. That's generalizing, but if I had been there with somebody that, hey, it was their first time out hunting, I mean, that would have ruined it for them. They probably wouldn't have picked up a bow or a gun again.
Right.
But I'm not certain. I mean, I think I handled it right. Maybe I didn't, but I think just pulling out and just leaving that area all to that guy was probably the best thing I could have done at that time. Of course, you talk to other people and they're like, "Oh, dude, I would have thrown down on that guy." And you're like, "Well, it's not worth it."
You'd like to think we're better than that.
And I'm not a fighter anyway. Who knows? I
It's
probably
frustrating.
would have got my butt whooped. So,
Yeah.
Well, it's probably best for him that he left you alone.
gentle giant. But anyhow, what about you, Nate? Was there something come to mind?
Well, I actually had a story kind of on the flip side. We were just talking about low holing. And a few years ago, I hadn't done a lot of river fishing, really to speak of at all. Just getting into steelheading. And we were bank fishing. And the group of us were upstream at the top end of the hole. And there's kind of a big, like, oxbow in the river. And a kind of a big steep knob of land on the oxbow. So you couldn't really walk the bank out and around it.
Sure.
And so we were fishing that top section of the hole, and then there was a nice riffle just before a set of rapids. You could just kind of see around the bend of the oxbow. So I decided to pick up and go overland and go over this knob to go down to the other side of the oxbow in this river. And I'm kind of walking down through there, and I'm probably 40 feet above the river at this point because it's a super steep bank. And like I'm kind of walking a deer trail out through and kind of getting down to where I can kind of see this open hole. And then all of a sudden this dude yells up at me. He's like, "Hey, you bleepity bleep, you trying to low hole me?" And I didn't even see this guy because the bank's so steep, and there's really no way.
Did you yell back, "No, sir, I like girls"?
Yeah, because I had no idea what low holing even meant back then, And so, I'm like, I can't remember what I said, but I didn't know what he was talking about as far as low holing. So I'm like, "No, I didn't even see you there," And so I kind of worked my way down to the bank a little bit, and then as I'm kind of working my way down to him, because I just kind of wanted to talk to him and see how he was doing or whatever, and if he was getting any action or whatever. And as I'm kind of working my way down, I look up and he's like angrily packing all of his shit up.
Yeah.
And he's cursing under his breath and everything else, and then I only get a few yards kind of working my way down the bank, and this guy's like got all of his stuff up, and he's like hauling butt up the hill. I'm like, "Oh." And we get to talking a little bit, and I'm like, hey, I'm not trying to encroach on you. I was just coming down to see how you're doing. I didn't know you were down here. I wasn't going to come in and blow your hole up or whatever.
Yeah.
There's a group of us up on the other end of the oxbow there, and I was just coming down to check this spot out. And, So I kind of talked him down a little bit, and then he learned pretty quickly that I didn't know what the hell I was doing. and had no idea about the proper ethics of river fishing when somebody else was there. Plus, I didn't see him there anyway when I was working my way down. So
Was it the low cut shorts that you made out of your jeans?
actually, he had cut off jeans. On.
Yeah, cut off jeans. Yeah.
Legitimately, he did.
Is there anything that like
in a flannel shirt?
is there anything that knocks down the credibility of anyone like on the outdoors if they're wearing cutoff jeans at any length? Like this guy doesn't know what he's doing.
It depends on if the pockets are hanging out the bottom.
This gal, on the other hand, she looks smart.
Yeah. Well, it all worked out though, because I talked him down. He realized I was a noob pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And he was like, I've been here an hour anyway. You can have it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he left, and I got the hole anyway. So
Yeah. Yeah, and a guy like that, he's probably experienced or is ultra sensitive in his circumstance, because it maybe that happens to him a lot on that, whatever. Whether it's a drainage that gets a lot of pressure or
yeah.
I mean, I guess you can never speak for what kind of person they are, but
Well, there was a lot of effort to get into that particular spot.
for
too.
him to call out like that to a stranger, even though you didn't know he was there, strikes me as a pretty confrontational person.
Yeah. Like I thought he was coming up the bank to
Yeah.
throw down, and
Yeah.
he laid into me pretty good
Yeah.
for about 30 seconds until I started explaining. Like,
You're like,
I mean,
Yeah.
no offense, I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you, and that guy's lucky he didn't get a roundhouse to the side of the face.
It would have been a grapple. He would have just taken his jean shorts off and exposed his onesie unitard that he was going to wrestle him in.
Yeah.
All right, pal. It's go time. you, me, slippery rocks.
Yeah.
He struck me as a guy that had a lot of words on the riverbank, though,
Sure.
with a lot of people.
This is there's layers to this. There's a lot of layers to this. A lot of variables. I mean, are you talking about, where you're hunting is a big thing, or fishing. Is it a lake? Is it a river? On the hunting side of it, are you Western hunting where there's thousands and thousands and thousands of acres of public land and nobody owns it? And obviously, if I want to walk lockstep with you, I can do that, legally. Or is it back east where you may own 20 acres and that's your land, and if somebody steps on it or hunts on the line, there's a lot of layers to it. And I think to the point you guys are making, and Nate, it's like, and I've been in these situations too, a lot of it is ignorance, or just not knowing, again, the ethical things. And it's not that you don't know, but you have to be taught. Like, yeah, in my opinion, you have to learn how to shoot a gun and shoot a bow, and run a rod and reel and a bait caster versus, like all those things are things you learn. But I think as important is kind of like there's some underlying rules of the woods and the water, and here are some of them. It's just like golfing. I remember like when I first kind of learned how to golf, it was like I didn't know that you couldn't or shouldn't step in someone's line on the putting green. Like if somebody's gonna putt, you generally step over that line, not to somehow like deviate
Crease
the ball.
the blades of grass that
Exactly.
it's gonna
Or
travel
talking
over.
someone's backswing or whatever. So like same thing applies.
Or crack a beer.
Yeah, crack a beer in the hole. But same thing applies, I think, to the woods and the water. It's like I think a good mentor or some good friends, although some friends will probably have this fun at your expense, but they'll say, hey, so in this situation, we don't really want to do this,
Sure.
Or pull up behind a guy at a gate and say, okay, let's go over, let's move for this reason. And
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's so much resource out there now that it's causing so many people that are adults that have never grown up hunting to get into the sport later in life that don't have a mentor at all.
Yeah.
And they're just out there trying to get after it just like everybody else, but they don't necessarily know the right way to go about it. So just keep that in mind too. If you come across somebody in your spot or whatever that you think is doing you wrong, it might just be that they don't
know any better.
know any better, right?
And it only takes about 10 seconds of conversation to figure out, does this guy, most of them, if they're new and they don't know any better, they'll apologize and move along, or you can move along, or, I mean, we ran into that this year. I feel like the last couple of years elk hunting, on
I was
public
thinking
land,
of
we've
that
run
too.
into people that do things maybe, most hunters would do a little bit differently as far as how they hunt and walking in on somebody or detecting somebody's hunting in an area and still continue to hunt in the I mean, like we talked to that guy and like he point blank he's like how did you guys know it was me when he was bugling and we talked to him, we're like, hey,
Yep.
here's the laundry list of problems that you have, sir. Don't come back in the woods until you figure it out.
But he was one though that once we explained where we were at, he didn't go into the side
Right.
that we were on. After that, we could still hear him on the other side of the drainage.
And who you were.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if you know this, sir, but
We're
my name's Nathan Bailey, and I'm a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
That's right.
Look at these hands.
very important.
Have you seen the latest Neutrogena?
Half an hour later, after the autograph signing, you were able to finally go in
This is
after that
embarrassing.
bull. That was,
I come out here to get away from this.
That's right.
yeah.
Yeah. Now,
Yeah.
I will say, growing up in the Midwest, hunting confrontation is much more prevalent, and even fishing. Like one quick story. I mean, I was hunting. I was fishing with Pete. We did the guy we went fishing with, walleye fishing with.
Yep.
Or in John's case, big eye fishing.
Big guys.
Big eyes.
That was fun. Good
Yeah.
guy.
But we were trolling, and we were out on Green Bay. No, where were we? Sturgeon Bay. Anyway, and
On the big lake, anyway.
yeah, I mean, it was big water, but we were running. Again, it's one of those things where you kind of get in a line and troll these breaks, and you just have common courtesy and try to keep enough space. But when you're trolling, it's like, sometimes we were fortunate enough we were actually catching some fish, and you're trying to bring these fish in and steer the boat at the same time and regulate your speed, and sometimes you kind of get off course. And
back there, you can have tons of lines out.
yeah,
So
yeah. I mean, you got to have your shit together. You
Yeah.
got to know what you're doing.
get everything all tangled up
Yeah.
if you're not careful.
And he's a super experienced fisherman. It just happened that I think we had a double, and we were both bringing fish in and trying to, recalculate where we were going, and we got a little close to this again. And one guy, super small boat, just kind of jig fishing, and again had every right to be there, but we did get a little close, and he lit us up. You sons, bleep bleep, and your big freaking boats, and of course you look like a douchebag when you're in a giant Ranger and he's running the Tin Lizzie next to you, and
Yeah.
it sucked. I mean, like, there was nothing you could say except you apologize, and but
Mhm.
but what I was getting at was like private land hunting in the Midwest, where there's a tremendous amount of hunters, and everybody's got a lot of people do have private land, and then you run into trespassing. Not, I don't think as much anymore, just because, I mean, you straight up get your butt shot,
Yeah.
if that's the case. But
When you got Onyx maps and all that other stuff,
yeah,
you don't have many excuses anymore to not know where you're at.
yeah. I mean,
in
so
the
much
woods.
tribal knowledge back there too. But like hunting on the line, that's something that is like, is it legal? Yep. But if I'm hunting and I, and the thing is like, like, okay, my 20 or 40 acres is prime because I have a swamp, and that's where all the deer go during gun season, and all of your neighbors are posted on the corners of your property. That gets pretty hairy sometimes. And the other thing too is, like, Western hunting is, it's wide open. You kind of never know what you're going to see. Rarely, you get to know intimately these animals. Like, oh, I've watched that buck for 3 years or that bull for 3 years, and I know, you get that back east, so people kind of lay claim to like ownership to these deer.
Yeah.
And it gets really, really ugly, and it's unfortunate. I mean, because it's such a small community. You'd hope we'd all be on the same team, and like, hey, I mean, there are genuinely people that are like, I don't care, just somebody shoot an animal, and we're gonna be excited.
You're talking pretty small tracts of land that people have claim to back there. Here you've got thousands of acres of national forest or BLM or whatever, and
that's why I think it's a
you
little
can glass
less.
somebody up on the next ridge and decide just to blow over 2 more basins and not step on each other's toes. But a little tougher to do that when you're on 40-acre parcels.
Totally.
But it's a slippery slope for sure.
Well, the other thing too is like, so the still hunter, like the spot and stalker, like the guy in the whitetail woods, which, not saying it can't be done, but it's pretty tough. I mean, these are anybody that's hunted whitetail or seen a TV show with whitetails, you know how spooky they are, and like how they just bail at the first, inkling of a predator, or human. So bow hunting not as much, but like to be up in a gun scenario where you're posted up and you're kind of sitting, and see a guy stalking through the woods, trying to jump shoot something it's frustration. I think what all this comes down to is frustration. People get frustrated. You're taking their fish, right? Or you're taking their animal.
Be interesting to send out some psychological tests. Do you think the Midwest to Eastern hunter is more competitive than the Western hunter? Do you think it's a degree of competitiveness that causes these disputes, or is it entitlement, like you said, to the animals, or just like the sheer I got to be successful. If I'm not successful, then I can't validate myself to my fellow hunters, and you are stopping me from being successful, and so you're going to hear it. You're going to feel my wrath.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think okay, so that's a good question. And no matter where you are or what you do, I think the people that are really fanatical about it, like
passionate,
super passionate. They're whatever they do, they're doing 365 days a year. If you're an elk hunter, you're training, you're shooting your bow, you're just poring over digital maps online, and you're looking for those new honey holes, and you're out scouting, and you're putting cameras up, and the same can be said for whatever your passion is. If you're a fisherman or you're a whitetail hunter, I think the guys that pour so much into it, like mainly time, and then they run into a scenario where Jimmy Lipper is either new to the sport, or there's just a weekend warrior out there, and they're kind of happen to run into each other. It's like most of the time, the weekend warrior guy that's just kind of new is just they don't know, or they're just out there to to have a good time and get away, and it's their vacation. And you can usually, as an experienced outdoorsman, you can pick up on that when you run into that person. Like you said, psychologically, you're like, okay. Because listen, what do you guys think? If I run into somebody that they know what they're doing, I'm generally a lot less frustrated, because it's like, hey, this guy's put in his work, she's, they've done their homework, and like I know I'm probably not going to see him again, and we can almost coexist, right? Because I know that they're not going to necessarily, hopefully, like blow all the elk out, or
once you
screw
both know
up
where
a
each
hole,
other's at, then
right? Or screw up a hole in the
act
water
accordingly. Yeah.
Right. But when you run into that person, you're like, this guy or this girl, they don't know what they're doing. I mean,
but you're not. You're keeping that to yourself.
Right. You do.
In those circumstances, if we're talking about you, I haven't personally seen you lash out. No, I haven't.
That's because usually I'm the one screwing up. Like,
you put a basketball in your hand and get on a court. Yeah, it's totally
I do
different
get fired up there.
Yeah, you're a competitive little guy. Yeah, but to your point though,
go Tyson on you.
There's a lot of people
bite your ear off,
and I'll put myself in this boat too, because I don't, and I know you guys, none of us get out as much as we would like to, and we're very passionate, and we only have that week a year, or that couple weekends. And so I will say, that adds an element to it as well, because, if you're a retail shop owner out there, you know exactly what I'm talking about, because you guys got into this industry, whether hunting, fishing, because you're passionate, and we all know you don't do it nearly as much as you used to. You only get those couple days out there a year, and when you do get out there, you want to enjoy it to the best of your ability, and on that, every now and then you're going to run into that person that, is going to make you question your own ethics, I guess, or just, challenge you to hold your tongue and have some grace with that person. You know what I mean? And so, I mean, I've definitely been in that boat. Elk season reminds me the most of that. Is probably when that happens the most for me personally, because especially on public land, you're gonna run into people, and that'll challenge yourself, to either help that person or make that encounter a good or a bad one. But it's tough because sometimes the people are just, you can tell right off the bat, all right, this is not somebody I would spend time with.
You're right.
So they're going to test your patience.
Yeah,
sure.
And, they want to, anyhow. We don't, but yeah, so I can definitely not being able to spend as much time in the woods definitely compounds that for sure.
Yeah. Stereotypes.
Yeah.
They exist for a reason.
Yeah, they do.
Like the guy. Okay, so on one of our older podcasts, we did a podcast with Watershed Fly Shop in Corvallis, Oregon, and Troy, our good friend Troy. You guys were talking about a situation when you guys were fishing and you ran across. What can you?
Was it a guide?
No, it wasn't a guide, but it was the kind of like traditionalist fly fisherman. And
Yep.
What was he calling you out on? Because
Troy. Yeah. Well, this guy.
He was fired up. Troy was fired up.
Troy was
telling
fired
the story.
Up. Yeah.
I'm sure he handled it very well.
Troy was very animated, just because this guy. We talk about stereotypes. We're talking about purists and elitists types, and we were breaking down those barriers of the fly fishing community. But we ran into one gentleman who was had very, very nice gear, was dressed very nice and proper, almost like you were on an English chalk stream, which, if you don't know what that is, a lot of those streams over there in Europe and England, they're pay to play, and only the rich can do it. So that when they're fishing, they're dressed in their
really?
Sunday
I didn't know
best.
that.
Yeah, so this guy had his...
Most likely he showed up in a Subaru wagon.
Probably. So the guy, like Filson, which is a very high-end company, clothing to the hilt, had a nice proper, I don't know what the hats are called, like a painter's hat or whatever. I don't know. The guy was very fancy.
Yeah.
Bamboo stuff, wicker.
Oh, man.
Anyhow, Troy caught a brown trout. In this particular drainage, there's very, very, very few of these. Mostly rainbows, and a few brookies. And Troy's caught hundreds of brown trout. Most of them I've handed the rod to him on. And
Hey, buddy, here you go.
he's gotten a good look at what all species look like these last few years fishing with me. No, I'm just kidding.
What a dick.
I know. And
I can already tell you I wouldn't want to spend time with you, John.
and Troy was like, dude, I've never caught one of these out of this river before. And the guy, so we met this guy later on in the day, and long story short, the guy was doubting Troy. He was one of those grace growers who, was like, oh, it wasn't a brown trout. And Troy's like, oh, it was a brown trout, buddy. It was a brown trout. And, that's another circumstance, or, bullies or a-holes in the field. That guy probably didn't even know that he was making Troy feel that way, but that was the case.
Yeah.
Yeah, he thought he was educating him.
Troy brings that up like every fifth conversation that comes up. I mean, it's ingrained in him now. That's funny.
So what do you think is the best way to handle? I mean, I think we all know the answer to this, but okay. So is there a situation where you think you would stand your ground and be like, no, dude, you need to leave. You're wrong. I'm staying here. Because for me, 99.9% of the cases, it's not worth it to me. I'm not going to argue over, unless the guy's trespassing on my property or gal, and they're doing something completely unethical. But in most cases, I'm just going to be, it's not worth it. I'm going to move on.
Yeah.
I would, because it's going to bother me the rest of the day, the rest of the weekend or whatever. Like if I try to stick it out and I'm always looking over my shoulder or, whatever. And like if I turn into an asshole for some reason, but do you guys see any scenario where you would?
I got one for you. I got a what would you do question. This is for you, Jake. Well, you too, Nate. Because I can't really consider it even ice fishing. But so it
happens there too.
Say you're ice fishing. Say you're ice fishing. I don't even know if this has happened. This would be a funny hidden camera though. We could probably do this and just to see people's reaction. Say you got your neighbor over there, a couple hundred yards. He's got a hot hole.
Yeah.
What if you walked over there and dropped in his hole?
Yeah.
And just started digging as you stare at him in the face, just like blank, like, hey, how's the fishing been? And you start trying to make small talk.
Yeah.
You want to see someone get ticked
God.
off?
Yeah.
That would be horrible.
Probably get hot coffee
I
thrown
mean,
in your
come
face.
on.
Yeah.
That'd be hard. That'd be hard to walk away from. I mean, you drilled it. You're there. Somebody drops in.
It's like, oh, finally.
You can see the hand auger laying right next to the hole, so they spent a good 20 minutes.
Man. What would you do? What would you do?
If I would,
You drilled the hole.
oh, I would have a problem with that. That's as close to private property as it gets without actually owning it.
And then they're in your
This is
bubble.
my hole.
They're in your bubble, and
Oh, man.
what would you do, Nate? I know what you would do. That person would be dead.
That's it.
It'd be nice.
Ice hole swirly.
Yeah.
There's so much alcohol that's consumed while ice fishing as well. So,
That could
most
escalate
likely
very quickly. Yes.
people are going to be tuned up. Yeah. But, I mean, that does, to your point, I mean, like, I've been in situations where we've been fishing and ice fishing and, like, whatever. You get a few flags and you catch some fish, and then pretty soon you realize that people are getting a little closer and closer. And, my
Yeah.
pops, he's never been one to shy away from
I could see Big Mike,
Yeah.
holding his ground.
Yeah. Yeah, he does.
Yeah. Cool. Huh.
It's
Interesting.
it's tough out there.
I would be curious on, some of those circumstances can turn out to be pretty entertaining and funny. So if anybody out there has a funny, encounter that they'd care to share, let us know. I like reading that stuff too.
Yeah.
I'd say the situation where I probably would get a little more animated, or at least a little more when frustration turns to now I'm getting kind of pissed, would be if I had one of my kids with me, or any kid, for that matter. It's like, hey, just trying to, get them some fish, or get them on some fish, or trying to see some animals, and somebody comes in and starts, even on public land in that situation, I would probably get a little animated because, come on. Yeah. But it is the psychology of like ownership, like assumed ownership of land or animals in a situation where there is none, is amazing because people do it all the time. This is my hole. This is my fish.
I'm entitled to it.
This is, And to me, like if fishing in a fishing sense, like if you're fishing a hole and you get there first, then technically is it your hole? No, but you should respect it. Like he got up early, she got up early, drove from who knows how far, walked or boated in. It's low blow. Low blow, low hole.
Yeah. I've come across it before rifle hunting during rifle season for deer. And like you're trying to drive to get to a hole, and people have literally parked their rig across the sideways in the middle of the road to prevent people from driving further.
Yeah.
Basically blockading.
There's not a gate on it. They'll
They make their own gate. And I've come across that numerous times before I started archery hunting, and people will do it with 2 or 3 rigs if need be.
Yeah.
And basically, at least around here, I've encountered that numerous times, which is also a dick move. But
yeah. What do you guys? And we'll wrap this up here pretty quick. But so, kind of on the next level, protecting spots that you've found, be it water or woods. You always get that person that's like, well, where'd you shoot that? Or where'd you catch that?
Yeah.
And they're persistent, in some cases sneaky. Somebody we used to work with was very sneaky with looking into areas that you happen to be successful in, and somehow always managed to
find their way there.
the maps you were looking at, whatever. But
I've gotten pretty good at that over the years, haven't I, guys?
like I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
We're not talking about you, Nate.
Some people get mad, right? Some people are like, well,
Yeah.
I don't know why you just don't tell me where you.
Yeah.
But like me personally, if you have a good hole, well, granted we're friends, so you should share everything with me and allow me to go first. But I even if somebody's like, hey, here's where I'm hunting, here's where I'm fishing, and here's where I'm really successful, and I'm not going to be there this weekend. Like, okay, maybe, but like in most cases, I feel weird.
Yeah.
Like, that's part of it, right? I want to be.
Yeah.
We shoot something or you catch something, and like there's always a little bit of that. Well, I didn't really earn it completely because somebody told me exactly where to go and what to use.
Well, when you're sharing that information with people, you got to be. It's not that you don't want other people to be successful, but it's not necessarily what's burned me in the past. It's not necessarily the person you shared that with, where you were at.
Right.
You don't know how many people they're going to tell.
Right.
And so, spots and in rivers and streams and areas of hunting, and not just there. I mean, the list: shed hunting, mushroom picking. It's all encompassing. Some of those really good spots that you enjoyed going to now are overrun. And it's granted you can't contribute at all to that person, but the more eyes and ears and mouths that know about it, you got to keep. And, there's something sacred about it too, about that spot, and kind of an unwritten rule, I guess.
Yeah.
You can't.
There's so
You
many
just can't
resources
go talking
for
about it.
digital scouting and everything else that people are going to find most spots, at least hunting wise.
Yeah.
Eventually. So you can compound pretty quickly when word starts getting spread too.
Right.
That being said, anybody that sees any of our posts on occasion, fishing or whatever, where the backgrounds are blacked out, please don't get offended. We're just trying to do our part as far as keeping traffic down, unless you kind of put in your dues, I guess.
Yeah, we appreciate everybody who does listen and subscribes, but don't get offended if somebody asks, "Where's that river?" or "Where are you at?" That's a silly question. We're not going to tell you.
Save it.
Yeah.
Save it. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, if you've got technique questions or how to read water or
like how did John do that spin?
Yeah, exactly.
How does he fit that back there?
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's a different story. Like I don't mind
Tony Gazelle work,
telling people how to target things or other preparation techniques or what have you. But.
Yep.
What'd you guys learn, Nader?
I was just thinking about that. Go ahead, Nate.
Well, this is more kind of like a general closing thought, I guess, but
can't use it. That doesn't count.
Deep Thoughts
Tell us
by Nate Bailey.
Yeah. Well,
look at the mirror.
Deep, I guess. I don't know. I guess my kind of closing thoughts or what we learned is, regardless of the scenario that comes about from some tension in the field, just be cognizant of not raising your asshole meter to the level of whoever it is necessarily.
Right?
Just go into situations cool-headed and just remember sometimes that they might be doing it maliciously or what have you. They might know what they're doing and are being a dick anyway. But I think oftentimes it's a case where people either just don't know that someone else is in there or just generally don't understand how their actions are impacting others negatively. So.
Yep. A lot of new sportsmen out there.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them don't know. They just don't know.
And it's great that the sport's growing, and we need new hunters and anglers to keep coming aboard. And don't ruin it for somebody because you're out there and you put in a lot of. Even if you most of us have put in a ton of time and effort, and if you perceive somebody as ruining your hunt or your fishing trip, just approach every situation like you're assuming it's that other person's first day in the field or on the water. Yeah, and you don't want to ruin their experience and have them bag it in and not continue pursuing the outdoors. So
even on a bigger, larger scale, we're all in this together, right? And we have to be unified. And when it comes to conservation, if you want a piece of water or a piece of land to get mad at somebody on, we got to make sure that we're all on the same page, at least from that standpoint. So we can't be. That's always stinks, I mean, I step back and whatever industry you're in, there's the whole Ford versus Chevy mentality. Like, oh, you use this product or you use that, and I can't be friends with you because I use this one or whatever. It's like, come on. So what I learned, though, John has internalized and continues to internalize a lot of emotion, a lot of rage inside of him. So one day, watch out. You don't want to be that straw on that camel's back. Johan von Eastburn?
Well, Nate touched base on some of that, and I'm a little concerned why he was staring at me the whole time when he was telling me about what he learned, especially when he said asshole level. So, no, I learned that, there's the old saying, perception is reality, and it does not stop at the truck door. So when you walk into the woods or you get in your boat and you're going down the river, yeah, definitely how you handle yourself in these circumstances will speak volumes of you long after that circumstance happens. I mean, your boat's identifiable, your truck's identifiable, your gear's identifiable. People will how you react in these tough circumstances will kind of define you, and it'll follow you around. I mean, I know there's people that are they're pigeonholed because of ways they've handled these circumstances poorly. So that being said, just be kind. Why can't we all just get along? Be gracious to each
ELE.
other.
Everybody love everybody.
Yeah, and yeah, it'll all be good. It's good that everyone's out enjoying, the outdoors. Definitely is.
Yep.
If a river without people fishing it, has no friends, and a river with no friends has no protection. So that goes for rivers. That goes for public land. That goes for private land even. So that's what I learned.
Yeah, good point.
Yep. Well, cool. Thanks everybody for listening. So just real quick, a little bit of housekeeping. All right. So last year we did our first annual Outdoor Madness bracket to celebrate March Madness. We're all basketball fans, sports fans, so we wanted to apply that to the outdoor world, and we put one together. And probably, as far as confrontation and conflict is concerned, we definitely heard some blowback on the choices that we made. So real quick, all we did was we made two brackets, a hunting and a fishing bracket, and we paired them up and basically decided which species would reign supreme as far as the ultimate species to hunt or fish.
And who won it last year? It was
Well, we ended up doing two, and
That's
we
right.
had a winner. I think the hunting bracket was elk,
yeah.
and the fishing
Reigning
bracket.
champ.
This is where the conflict happened. The fish of choice, America's fish.
America's fish.
Your America's fish. He punches in bunches.
Yeah,
Trout. T-route.
Yeah.
we'll see how that shakes
Yep,
down
so-
this year.
We're going to do another one of those, probably mix it up a little bit, add a few tweaks and a few twists to it. So
Jake will wear pants this time.
I will
so
promise
if
to
we
keep my
post a
pants
video,
on.
It won't be nearly as
Right.
awkward.
right.
You can definitely tell which teams he liked.
Yeah. I'm going to grow my mustache for this one. So
Swing.
oh. Smallmouth bass, anyone? So we're going to do that. Look for that here in the next couple of weeks. We want to get that out before the tournament's over or right around that time. So look for that. Also, got a few other changes coming, so stay tuned. Check us out on Instagram and Facebook. And, as John made mention and Nate, comment. If you got any comments on or stories regarding, issues you had in the woods or water, share them. And then super important, it just really, really helps. Get on iTunes, leave us a review, let us know what you think, and in any way, shape, or form, tell a friend. It really, really helps us. The reviews are huge, so throw a rating up there and review, and appreciate everybody listening.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it.